that really was a test to how dedicated I was going to be to the car business or to my craft, because it wasn't as fun as what it looked like my friends of, the six friends of my age group were doing, partying in college, going on prom and all this other stuff. I didn't experience that because I was working.
That is our super fancy intro for you.
Hey, I love it.
All right, everybody, today we are here on The Overcomers. You guys are normally used to seeing a video of me every Friday come out, and I'm all lonely, and I have a better quality camera than you see right now, but sacrifices we make. Today we are actually going to switch things up for the future. We are going to be inviting a bunch of guests onto the show, people that Velco knows personal, people that we don't even know to begin with, complete strangers. Anybody who wants to be on the show, who has a story to tell, some inspiration to give, is welcome. Today I am actually meeting with Patrick Obrien, who is a personal colleague of Velco. I'm sure they go way back, further than I know. He is sort of in the automotive industry. We're actually just talking about that. Like
no, it's not sort of. It's 100% in it. It's just
100%.
I went from the retail side where I worked day in and day out, 70 hours a week on the sales tower in the finance office as a used car manager, and I was recently I was promoted to the corporate level for our group. So now I handle, I'm platform director for all the marketing, all of our CRM processes, website builds, third parties, all that. So I handle all of that on a corporate level for the group as a whole here in Atlanta metro area.
Yes. And you were explaining that it's a very tedious job. He spends long hours typing on his computer to make sure that
analyzing data and reporting back to the owners so they don't have to analyze data. I try to tell people sometimes I'm maybe an overpriced data analyst, but it's important because the data that you get in a car dealership, especially when you have multiple stores, is extremely valuable when you're trying to figure out where you need to go from there.
Yeah. So take us a little bit back before, even before you started working. Take us back to your childhood and your upbringing and kind of what shaped you into the person you are today.
Absolutely. So I actually, from as long as I can remember, as far back as I can remember, I think they say since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, I always wanted to be in the car business. Both my parents are in the car business. My dad just retired after an illustrious 55-year career as one of the very best used car directors in the country. Anybody that knows my dad, John Cario, can attest to that. My mom is still currently working. She is actually a controller within our group at our flagship store, Atlanta Autos. So I grew up in the car business. My grandfather was an importer-exporter, used to import vehicles from Argentina and South America to the United States, used to export vehicles from the United States to either Spain and or South America. So I grew up around the business. It's something that at our dinner tables, we had conversations about the car business. I was taught how to look for paintwork and appraise cars at 6 years old. You know what I mean? So my upbringing was very similar to what they call PhD kids in the industry, which is parents have dealerships. So I grew up in the car business. I grew up in the dealerships. It's something that I've always wanted to do. I really don't think I could imagine doing something else with my professional career. I really don't. But it was great. My parents shaped a lot of who I am today through my work ethic. I watched my parents every single day. I'm talking, again, from small childhood. My parents would come home to be able to have dinner with us, me and my sisters, when we got home. But then they would leave right after that, and they would go right back to work. They'd either have to go to the auction to pick up cars and take them to the dealership to start getting the reconditioning process done. They used to have to move cars around the lot to redisplay them and re-merchandise it for the weekend. So I watched my parents work extremely hard my entire life. At the sacrifice of us kids. My parents were not at our baseball games. They weren't our coaches. They weren't at my sister's cheerleading competitions or band whatever things, orchestra things, because they were working. But it really did instill a fire and a passion for work, because we understood at a young age that money isn't easy. It doesn't come free. And anything you want in life, you have to work hard to get to it. Unfortunately, most people are not going to get the easy way in life. And I hate to say that, but life is hard.
Oh yeah.
It puts knots on your head. If you're not careful, you could be going to the highest of the highs, and so all of a sudden you turn the corner, and life just comes around and gives you a wallop. And you just have to be prepared for that. So I really think that my parents did a great job preparing not only me, but both of my sisters as well for, the next stage in our lives. And again, they instilled a work ethic in us that I can promise you, it doesn't matter who you are, what industry you're in, you will not outwork me or my two sisters, period. It just doesn't matter. You just won't do it. When it comes to the car business side of it, it's even more intense, because not only do we love what we do because we're all in the car business, or at one point were, we have a legacy to maintain as well. You know what I mean? One of the things that I would hate is something to get back to my dad or my mom, that I was not a hard worker, or I didn't exemplify the qualities that they actually instilled in us as a youth.
All right. So, what did your two sisters end up doing with their careers? Are they in the car business at all?
So my sister, my older sister, who's closest to my age, she was in the car business for a very short amount of time. My sister is a mother, a homemaker, a wife, and now a certified personal trainer out in the Lake Oconee area of Georgia. She's certified in all these different certifications. So she left the car business long ago, but she was able to find her passion in what she does, in exercising and being a personal trainer. And she's also a published author. My sister, I always like to say, I don't know how she puts it, but my sister writes short novels, naughty women books. I don't know. Books that women read that are naughty. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know how else to put that. And then my other sister, my oldest sister, is actually on the banking side. So she was actually a paper buyer for the last 25, 30 years. So she works on the finance side, where we have a deal at the bank or at the dealership, we submit it to the bank. My sister's one of those people at the bank that receives that application and approves it, declines it, and or helps us work the deal and put the deal together.
Okay. So it seems like everybody turned out successful because of, the
Work
upbringing
ethic.
that you guys were just surrounded by.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were exposed to at a young age, just people who don't stop working. My parents were a lot like that too, just always grinding. Even when life brings you down, you find a way to, even if it's humbling yourself and taking a position that you think you're better than,
And I've been doing this. I'm a high school dropout. I dropped out of high school in 10th grade, and halfway through 10th grade, it just wasn't working for me. I just wasn't going. I either didn't go to school or I didn't enjoy it. I was one of those people that I always said that the public school education system failed me. But luckily, I was educated here at the dealerships to where if you spoke to me, you would think, if you met me on the street and you just spoke to me in general, you would think I was a college educated person, that I because I speak so very as eloquently as I do. But I dropped out of school, man, and I got into the car business at 15. I started working 45 hours a week from the day I was 15, 45 hours or more every day since the day I was 15 years old. I started as a lot porter, which is the very bottom of the barrel, and worked my way through the car business at over I'll be 40 in June, so 25 years at this point.
Wow. How did your parents feel about you dropping out of high school?
It was actually, believe it or not, it was my parents' suggestion. Neither of my parents were high school graduates. They both jumped into the car business early on in life. My mom, obviously, was had kids before she could graduate. My father, being an immigrant to this country, came over here when he was in 8th or 9th grade, barely spoke English. And he really had to put his nose to the grindstone and figure out what he was going to do with his life moving forward. So again, that really ties back into the work ethic thing. Trust me, it wasn't an easy thing. My parents were like, okay, you're not going to go to school. You can sit at home on your ass. That wasn't going to be the case. It was, you're going to get up, and I got up at 6:30 every morning. Imagine 16 years old. You're getting up at 6:30 in the morning. You're at work by 7:30 and you're working until 5:30. And then all your friends, as they're getting older, going off to college, you're working and working and working. And that was, that really was a test to how dedicated I was going to be to the car business or to my craft, because it wasn't as fun as what it looked like my friends of, the 6 friends of my age group were doing, partying in college, going on prom and all this other stuff. I didn't experience that because I was working.
Yeah. How do you have any children?
I do actually. My wife and I, we just celebrated our 1-year anniversary a few days ago, back on the 10th. And our daughter our first daughter was born October 30th, 2021 at 7:42 p.m. Sorry, that'll choke me up. No, and that's, it's been the most amazing experience of my life. Her name is Betty Joy. We named her that. Her mother's name is Betty. It's a family name. My wife's grandmother's name was Betty. So we changed the middle name to Betty Joy because Joy is my mom's middle name.
Oh,
so it's Betty Joy Marie Obrien. That is our 4-month-old, and she is an absolute joy.
Okay, so you have two?
No, just one. Just one. It's our very first one.
So yeah, you have a while to talk about schooling with them.
Yes.
And yes. Work with your little one.
Of course.
So obviously, one of my questions was, what type of student were you? And I guess we kind of.
And I'll tell you what, though. Here's the thing. I was not a bad student. Okay. I scored extremely high on all the testing I took. I got a 1480 on my SATs. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't a dumb kid. I just did not feel the challenge of school. I really didn't think that what they were teaching me necessarily every day, day in and day out, was how to actually move through society and work through society. I felt like they were just teaching me how to pass a test so that they could get good marks and they could get their tenure. So I just didn't buy into it. And I'm not saying that this is the way to go. I already had a backup plan. You know what I mean? I knew that if school wasn't going to work out for me, I knew what I was going to do with my life. I had somewhat of a path kind of set up for me to where if school didn't work, I could take that path. I am not advocating that. Okay. I want to make sure that I let that know. I'm not advocating for young people to drop out of school and not go to college or anything like that. I'm not in that group. You know what I mean? I'm a little bit different. I was a little bit lucky, but I do implore people to explore the different possibilities that are out there. And I think they should absolutely start taking a look at it before it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because by the time, so let me ask you, this might be a personal question, but like, considering you started so much earlier, you started in the work industry at 15, did you find yourself ahead of your peers life-wise?
Yes, absolutely. At the beginning I was, yeah. No, and at the beginning I was, obviously just because I had a couple years of advantage and starting to, I had an apartment before everybody. I lived on my own before everybody. I was able to get a house before, but everybody over time caught up. You know what I mean? And then some of them obviously surpassed me based on how they were able to perform in their career. They got married a lot earlier than I did. All of my friends' kids are all a lot older than mine. They've got 6-year-olds and 10 years old and teenagers. And, I'm just getting started with that. But again, I also, I don't think there's any time in life that it's too early or too late as long as you're ready to do it. If you're financially stable and you're ready to actually do it and put in the effort and the time and the work that it takes to raise a family and to provide for one, then, I don't see if you do it at 20 or if you do it at 40 I don't see the difference in there. I guess maybe at 20, 25, you got a little bit more energy. At 35, 40, you maybe have a little bit more life experience. So I definitely think being a parent later on in life has allowed me to be more patient with some of the areas maybe that at 25 I might not have been able to.
Yeah, yeah. So what was like a big hurdle that you faced throughout those years? I understand, working itself, working 45 hours a week, especially at a young age, is a hurdle in its own because you're exposed to a whole new routine, you know what I mean? A whole new set of responsibilities. But was there anything that just kind of got in your way?
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. See, the thing, when you're a PhD kid and your parents are owners of the dealerships you work at, there's a lot of expectations. There's a lot of you're held to a higher standard. The expectations are higher as far as the level of your performance. And then you also, for lack of better terms, you also have the haters. You know what I mean? As I progressed in my career and I went from a porter to a salesperson to a finance manager to a sales manager to a used car manager, there was always chatter in the background. Oh, well, you only got that because of your parents. They didn't look at the production, the fact that I was producing as higher than everybody else. But then, of course, it was, oh, well, it's because of this or that or the other. So there was always a balance that I had to try and find there, to create my own success to where nobody could say oh, your parents are the reason that you had this level of success. My parents are the reason that I was ingrained with the abilities and the skill set to achieve the success that I have. But by no means were my parents the catalysts of that. I ended up leaving I stopped working for my parents back in 2007. And the reason for that was because I wanted to blaze my own trail. I did not want people to say the only way I was able to reach success or the only reason I was successful was because of them. So I decided to separate from my parents' dealerships, and I went on my own road, and it was a hard road. I probably would have gotten to where I'm at a lot sooner had I stayed working for my parents, had I stayed working with my dad every day. But I don't know if I would have had the same feeling about that success internally as I do about the success that I've seen over the last few years.
Okay. So you might have just answered this question, but what would you recommend for people who kind of have similar struggles where it's more so how you're being viewed rather than what you know about yourself?
Block them out. I spent so many years listening to all of that external chatter that it stopped or it stunted the growth that I could have had because I was so concerned about what everybody else was thinking and what everybody else was saying instead of focusing just on what I needed to accomplish to reach the level of success that I wanted to have. So I say to anybody, forget those people. They don't matter. They don't matter. At the end of the day, they don't matter. If it's not going to matter, if their opinion isn't going to matter 5 years from now, don't allow it to bother you for more than 5 minutes. And that's one of the things that I learned too late in life. I wish I would have learned that sooner, but it's better late than never, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. So, it's easy to say, block out the people who aren't doing you any justice. How do you kind of pick the people to take advice from or to listen to? You know what I mean? Like some people in your life you can just trust.
Yeah.
You know that they have your back. You know that you can, whether you take it or not, whether you do what they say or not, you know that it's coming from a good place and you can take it with more than a grain of salt, you know?
Yeah, and always be grateful for anybody's advice. Okay, I try to focus my life, and I'm every day. I focus my life around living a life of gratitude. So I'm grateful for any advice that anybody wants to give. However, I always make sure that depending on how that person's advice could affect my life long term or short term, is going to really determine how much water and or weight I put into it. I'm always grateful for it because at the end of the day, you can always learn something from someone, okay?
Mhm.
Or you can teach something to someone. All right. So the idea of being gracious and having gratitude for anybody's advice, whether or not you take it or not, is how I try to start it all off. I want to be grateful that somebody's willing to give it, but I'm also not going to necessarily hold it as the gospel onto how I should live my life and or how I should uh, conduct my actions based on their opinions. You know?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. So besides kind of, I hate to call it gossip because I feel like that belittles it, but besides just people, um, what was your biggest hurdle after leaving the dealership that your parents worked at? Did you find it at all challenging? Were you kind of in the back of your head like, were those guys right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Was I a little bit weak because I had my parents,
Yeah.
because I had my number one supporters working with me, you
Yeah,
know?
no, and the first job I had after leaving my parents' dealership was not in the automotive industry. I moved down to South Florida, which is where my family was from originally. So I had moved back down to South Florida, moved in with my cousin down there, and I got a job as a cold caller for a mortgage company. That we used to get Experian leads. It was 10 cents a name. It had a name, a telephone number, an address. I would pitch them at dinner to refinance their mortgage. It took me about a month to move out of the cold calling position into a junior broker position. Within 3 months, I was closing my own loans for them. Within 6 months, I was training the entire junior broker program. And this was at the height of the real estate bubble before that subprime mortgage bubble exploded.
Okay.
So I caught it right at the top. And unfortunately, I had to ride it down for a few years before I decided I don't know if this is going to be it for me. I was working 60, 65 hours a week. I was working for SunTrust Bank doing mortgages for them up here in Georgia. I had moved back to Georgia. And I just couldn't see it. I said, man, I'm on pace to make $60,000 this year, and I'm working 60 hours a week. If I'm going to work 60 hours a week, I'll just go back to the car business.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, it had been 3-4 years since I had been in the car business, and a lot of things had changed in the car business in that time, from when I had left in 2007 to when I was looking to come back in 2011, 2012. I mean, the landscape had completely changed. The internet was now the dominant. The internet was a very, it wasn't a big piece of when I sold cars. CRMs didn't exist when I sold cars.
Okay.
When I sold cars, there was no CRM. CRMs were just starting to become a technology that dealers were using once I moved into management. But we were still using old school desk logs and a highlighter, and you know what I mean, to mark off the sold cars, and index cards on our desks and brag books with each bill of sale. I mean, so the technology had shifted so fast, and that now people were shopping online. You know what I mean? When I had left my parents' dealership, the only internet customers we had came from Cars Direct, and they came over a fax machine. You know what I mean? It was a fax machine lead. It came over Cars Direct, and then you went, okay, we have this car. You call the customer, you sell it to them for invoice minus holdback, a triple net, zero profit deal. You make $50 and you go on to the next one. So I had felt that the new car dealerships had passed me by. That's exactly what went through my mind when I was going back. I went, oh shit, these guys are doing it completely different. I don't know if I can do this anymore. And it passed me by completely. So I actually started with shopping for a car online, because I needed to replace my Xterra. It got crushed by a tree during Hurricane Wilma in Florida. So I'm shopping for a car, and I come across this very small independent dealership in Marietta, Georgia, right off of Marietta Square. And I contacted them about buying a car that I saw. And I said, man, they got really nice inventory. I bet you I could sell these cars. So I went down there and for an appointment to look at a car. And I'm sitting on the couch waiting for my appointment time. There's 3 salespeople in the showroom. They're all sitting with their thumbs in their butt, right? Nobody's acknowledged me once. One guy's got his head down. One guy's playing on Facebook. One guy's watching YouTube. And I'm sitting there, and I'm now waiting to buy a car. Another customer walks in, looks around, shakes her head, turns around, walks outside. So I go up and I go after her. So I just start talking to her. Mm-hmm. Before I knew it, I was selling this lady a car. I didn't even work for this dealership. Yeah. I'm out there selling this lady a car. The owner comes out and he says, who are you? And I was like, well, I was actually here to buy a car. However, this lady came in, she walked around inside. Nobody acknowledged her, walked around outside for a while. Nobody said anything. So I just went out there and started talking to her. By the way, I'm also looking for a job. I've been in the car business X amount of years. And he was like, you're hired.
Yep.
And I think I sold 26 cars that first month. I sold 38 my next month, 41 the next month. And then he was like, hey, do you want to just run this store? And I was like, yeah, I can do that for you. So that was really my my soiree back into the car business. We eventually took that dealership from when I started working for them. They're selling 20, 25 a month. After 18 months, we had gotten it up to about 90 to 100 a month that we were doing all in there with 3 salespeople and myself. So that was one of the really cool stories that I had about the car business, on how I had to make my way back into it. I didn't just come back into it and start at an executive level management position. I went and worked at a small independent buy here, pay here dealership that I had to get back and hit the grindstone and get out there and hustle a lot, just to show that I not only to show the employer, but to show myself that I still had what it took to be successful in this business. And then I was able to grow from there. After about 18 months there, I made a ton of money selling cars because I wrote my own pay plan. So the owner really just had to pay me on it. And I made a bunch of money. So I ended up opening up my own independent used car operation. Needless to say, after less than 2 years, we were out of business. I realized that all the experience and all the previous things that I had seen in the car business didn't mean shit when you opened your own. Okay. The one thing that I did learn about opening your own dealership is however much money you think you need, double it, because you absolutely will not anticipate some of the things that come down the line on you. And those can be scary. I lost almost every penny that I had. That I had saved, that I had invested into that dealership. Losing $200,000 of hard cash is not easy.
How was your mentality during all of that? Did you let it get you down, or did you?
It did for a little while. I'm not going to lie. When I had to shut that dealership down, it was like watching the dream that you had always hoped come to life crash down right on top of you. So I had nowhere. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no money. I was broke because I had invested everything I had into this dealership. I had the auction was calling me to get payment. I had vendors calling me to get payment. Luckily, after, I don't know, years now at this point, I've been able to make good with all of those. So I've reestablished my relationship with the vendors, the auctions, and things like that, so I can continue on in the career that I have now, or the dealership that I'm at now. But it was really hard. It was, it took a lot out of me, and I was riding high. And then, like I said at the beginning, life came around and it put a knot right on my head. And I really wondered if, the business was for me, and I wondered if I could really operate my own store like that. And, it was an eye-opening thing. I can tell you what I don't ever want to do again.
Let's hear it.
Yeah. I don't want to open up my own dealership ever again.
How did your parents feel about all of this?
Because my parents were extremely proud of me. You know what I mean? Okay. I came from, I had, there's a lot of stuff that was in between all these years that we've gone from when I dropped out of high school to where we are now that, caused concern for my parents. I got in trouble as a youth. I had issues with substance abuse as a youth. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of things that had led up to, or had been in between that area. So my parents have always been very proud of me. My parents are amazing people. They really are. My mom's one of those people that every moment she can, she'll speak life into her children. That's my mom. My dad, as much of a hard ass as he is, my dad's he's a good man. You know what I mean? He really is. He's caring and he's genuine. As long as you're not trying to pull one over on him, then he'll give you the shirt off his back. If you try to pull one over him if you try to put one over on him, he'll take yours off of you. You know what I mean? So but my parents have always been very, very supportive, very proud, and very, very helpful. If there was a time that I couldn't figure something out, again, my parents have a combined 100 years of experience in the car business. My mom 40 years, my dad 55 years. So if there was something I didn't know, I could call my parents at 2:00 in the morning while I was working at the office trying to figure out how my financials were supposed to line up. I could call them and they'll take the phone call. If I needed them to come down there and look at something, they would. So my parents have always been very supportive and very, 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 very good people to kind of have my back.
Yeah. And that's awesome because people with supportive parents tend to be supportive parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can almost,
my daughter can be when that time comes and those days are upon my wife and I, and my daughter is making those decisions. My goal is to make sure that she understands that no matter what decision she makes, if it's been well thought out and she has a plan and that's what she wants to do, her mother and I will do everything we can to help her make that plan a reality. As long as it's obviously not harming others or harming herself. But and then again, that's going to come back, that, like you said, having supportive parents leads to supporting parents, so I look forward to the days that, I can have the conversations with my daughter about, hey, listen, I understand this, and this is what you should try. This is what you want to do. And just trying to see if I can help guide her through life a little bit easier maybe than my life was, even though my parents were pretty good guides.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything that you kind of look back on in life, and not that you wish you would do it differently, because I'm a firm believer that everything you experience in life, you experience for a reason. It's set before you. You don't even have a choice. It's going to happen. You know what I mean? You just have to deal with it and move forward. But is there any mistake, that you wouldn't make again, that you ensure yourself you're never gonna make again?
If I could go back and do it all over, there's very few things that I would change. The one thing that I would absolutely do differently is I would have listened to my parents a lot sooner than I started listening to them. Okay. My parents had been giving me good advice and the same advice all my life. My dad used to tell me when I was 6 years old, it doesn't matter if you're selling cars, selling gasoline, or selling oranges on the freeway. All you got to do is do it better and harder than the guy next to you. Okay. So had I listened to my parents' advice in my early 20s or my mid 20s, maybe even my late 20s, I probably wouldn't have run into a lot of the hardships that I had found myself in through life, because my parents were doing everything they could to help me navigate away from them. But at some points, like my mom said, sometimes you got to let your kids, fall flat on their face on their own, and then you just got to be there to help pick them up and let them know that it's okay.
Yeah.
So if I could change one thing, it would be I would have listened to my parents a lot sooner. I would have taken their advice a lot sooner than I started to.
So it seems like your parents just all in all were good people, good teachers.
They were good people. My mom's a tough cookie. My dad can be an asshole sometimes, but they're both really, really good people. They are.
I think every father, I think it's like in their blood. You have to have a side of asshole. Like you can't always just always be that. That makes you a bad person. But to be a father, you have to have it in you. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And my dad there was no shortage of dadding from my dad's perspective. When it comes to making sure that his kids were prepared for what life was going to throw at them. My mom was the loving one. My mom would help us. My dad wanted us to know what life was going to look like once we got older, and he instilled those things into us at an early age. And I think that's what's allowed all three of us to have the thick skin that we have.
Yeah.
Not only for the car business, but just for life in general and the world in general.
Yeah, that makes sense. How do you this is just a question that I like to ask.
Sorry, go ahead.
You're okay. Sorry, this is just a question I like to ask.
Carly?
But yeah. Can you hear me? Am I lost? Okay.
I'm still here.
I
Did we get knocked off?
See me?
Looks like it's still live.
Okay, 1 second.
Yeah, we're still in the show, Carly. Go ahead.
Okay. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. We lost connection here. So how do you kind of forgive yourself for any type of past mistakes? You say like you wish that you would have taken advice sooner, or any type of other example. How do you forgive yourself and kind of past?
All right, so this is this will be kind of, I don't know if this answers the question or not, okay? I don't have to forgive myself. Okay? It's not up to me to forgive myself because I don't put that much pressure on myself. I do not. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has things that they regret. Everybody has things that they would want to do over again if they could, but we can't. So I do not crush myself, and I don't allow myself to look down on myself. You know what I mean? I always tell my wife all the time, I think very highly of myself. I love me some me, and one of the things that we need, and I think people, especially as adults, because, and again, I'm not saying that, and a lot of times men in general, we're taught that, you can't love yourself. You're supposed to be this hardened person all.
Mm-hmm.
I am very gracious to myself. So I don't post a lot of blame onto myself and go, oh, I have to do this differently, or I damn it, man. No, hey, that's over. All I can do now is if I ever come to those moments again in life, how will I respond? You know what I mean? If those moments come circling back around, I know exactly how I'm not going to do it. I can't guarantee that I know exactly how I'm going to do it, but I can tell you that I know how I'm not going to handle those moments.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I refuse to put so much pressure on myself where I crush myself for things that happened, years and years ago that are out of my control at this point. All I want to do is learn from them and get better so that the next time they come running around, because they will, I'm prepared for it.
Yeah. I really like that perspective. That's definitely something that I lack. I'm always really hard on myself. But
lost the volume.
Oh, I feel like it's weird. We're losing audio, so I lost you.
Carly, I lost the volume.
How about now? Oh no. Okay. Can you hear me at all?
Yep, I got you now.
Okay. It keeps on happening to both of us.
It happens.
Yeah.
I'm getting peppered with phone calls right now. That's why.
Oh, I apologize for that. I promise we'll wrap up very, very soon.
It's cool. It's cool.
We're running out of time pretty soon anyways.
You're good.
But we're kind of just on like that last tier, a couple questions.
Yeah.
What's your next step? What's the next you know, level in your journey, whether it's 2 months, 1 year, 10 years, whatever it is?
The next step in my journey is the step that I continue to take every day. When I wake up in the morning, when I put my shoes on to go to work, I have one goal and one focus, and that's to help improve the quality of life for the people that I work with, so that they can in turn go ahead and improve the quality of life for the people they care about at home or in their life. Everything I do every single day, I use my talents, my abilities, my God-given gifts, the things my parents influenced on me, to do the best that I can to help positively influence the other people that I come into contact with, whether it's the people I work with or if it's just a stranger on the street that just looks like they need a smile. I do everything I can every single day to ensure that I'm doing what I can to help improve the quality of life for the people that I come into contact with. And that's my focus, and that will be my focus until I have no focus left.
So I guess, like, what's the biggest challenge you expect, if you expect any challenges, that comes along with just being a positive person? And
People are hard on themselves.
yeah,
People are too hard on themselves. People have to give themselves some grace. We give a lot of grace, we give a lot of patience, and we offer a lot of acceptance to others. And we haven't yet figured out how to do it for ourselves. And I think it really starts with that. That's really the most difficult thing. It's nothing about me. I can be as positive as anybody. It's when you interact with people who are, you meet some people that are just so damn negative. If you put them in a dark room, they might start to develop. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's the hardest challenge is dealing with. And again, you never know what somebody's going through. So I don't want to sit here and say that everybody should always be happy-go-lucky and positive and all that kind of jazz. I understand that people have a hard time and things are tough. I get that. But it should never, ever, ever go so far into your life to where it consumes you and you just become a bitter, angry, shitty person. You know what I mean? Like, and that's really the hardest struggle of being a positive person, is that you interact with so many people that are so negative. And if you're not mindful of that, they can bring your positive energy down, and you'll end up matching their walk, their level. So, like, for instance, when you're in a situation with there's two people, right? It's like when you go on a walk, okay? When you go on a walk, either you adjust to somebody else's pace or they adjust to yours. So
yeah.
what pace are we adjusting to in our lives? Are we adjusting to the pace of the negative people that we come into contact with, or are we having them adjust to the pace of the positivity that we're setting? So that's kind of the way that I kind of try to navigate everything I do.
What's your number one tip for kind of pushing people to adjust to your positivity?
I just live my life that way, and I live my life in a life of gratitude. I make sure that I show my gratitude to every single thing that I can be grateful for. I focus 90% of my day is focused on the things that I'm grateful for. I spend very, very little time focusing or thinking about the things that I cannot control or the things that I don't have in my life. I focus my energy and my focus is on the things that I have and the things that I can be grateful for.
And so it
Because that makes me
kind
happy.
of rubs off on people.
Huh?
Does it kind of rub off on people? And
I like to think that it does. I get messages all the time from people, man, I love your positivity. And so I hope it does. But here's the thing. It's not my job to have it rub off on anybody.
Okay.
My job is to maintain it so that it makes me happy. And then I can share that with the world. It's up to everybody else if they want to take it on themselves, because it's not easy. And again, the positivity and being gratitude, trust me, I lose some of that sometimes. There's some days that I am not happy. There's some days that I'm not positive.
Sadness, yeah.
I just don't focus on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's easier to focus on what you're
grateful for. Why spend any amount of time on things that you're not grateful for? I just thought it doesn't. I spent a lot of time retraining my mind over the years. And I just don't understand why we would spend any amount of time focusing on anything that doesn't bring us a happiness that we're not grateful to have in our lives. So I just try to focus on that only, specifically.
Yeah. I have kind of one last big question, and you could take a minute if you need to. But you've already given like a bunch of great examples that I want to just plaster on posters
Yeah,
everywhere.
you can use anything from this. You're more than welcome to use at your leisure.
What's one of your favorite quotes that you just want to share to other people, whether it's something you made up, something your grandpappy said, or something you picked off of Google?
My favorite quote of all time is from it's actually an old Chinese proverb. It's actually the first couple lines of an old Chinese proverb. It's he who knows does not speak, he who speaks does not know. That is my absolute favorite quote of all time. And really what it does is it's a humility quote, right? If you know everything, you don't have to go out and shout at them on the mountaintops, right? The people that generally talk the loudest are the ones that don't know the most.
Yeah.
I mean, period. So I love that quote. And then, I'm not a quote person, not really a quote. That's the only one that I like, and I like it because I have it tattooed on me. You know what I mean? Like,
everybody's got that one quote.
That's why I love that quote.
Well, that's amazing. And I've read that quote somewhere. I'm sure we've actually
I lost the mic again. Your mic got cut out again.
Oh. How about now?
There we go.
Okay. I've actually heard that quote before. I'm pretty sure we've actually had it on like the Velco Academy Instagram once or twice.
I've had that tattooed on me since I was 21 years old.
Yeah. I have one or I have one quote, I guess. It's in a different language, but it just means it is finished, which just.
And I'll tell you one of the things behind the quote. The reason that I got it was because when I was younger, I was one of those people that had to go and tell everybody everything that I knew. Mm-hmm. So when I got that quote tattooed on me, it was because I looked at that as something like, that is who I want to become. I want to become the one that knows, so he doesn't have to go out there and tell everybody how much he knows. Yeah. Because I know. I don't need to tell you guys all about it. You know what I mean? So it was a humility thing, and it was a humble thing for me to learn how to humble myself and how to be more, to have a little bit better humility. I hope as I'm aging, I hope I'm getting better at it. But I don't know. I guess that's for other people to determine. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little permanent reminder on you.
Yeah.
There's no washing that away.
Right.
Before we go ahead and leave today, I want to go ahead and get some of your contact information or anything you want to share to people who are watching this at a later time.
Yeah.
Whatever social media you're on, even if it's just a phone number or email.
Absolutely. No, you can follow me. You can find me on Facebook, obviously, Patrick Obrien. Instagram. So my Instagram is not really all it is I collect and hoard memes for the purpose of sharing them at a later date. And my Instagram is private because, it's stuff that I don't share on Facebook just because of the business. But if you want to laugh at some really, really solid memes, you can follow me on Instagram. It's POLITIXATL. That's politics ATL. Then you can also reach out to me anytime on social media, on Facebook specifically. I used to give my cell phone number out on these broadcasts. The last time I did that, I had a troll that just, he was trolling a company I worked for, and then he got my number and he started messing with me. So I don't give my personal cell phone number out anymore. But you can always also, if there's something that you want to discuss, you can email me. It's pobrien.aaf@gmail.com. That's my direct email. And again, reach out to me on Facebook. It's the easiest way. People know that I always check my messages. I'm always going to respond to you. You're not going to sit there and wonder, oh, well, shit, you told me to reach out and then you don't respond. So if I know that the message there is, I'm going to respond. If you want to jump on a 15, 20-minute coaching call me on Facebook. I will gladly jump on a phone call, whether if it's for motivation, to know how to be more positive, to live a life of gratitude, whatever it is I can give to anybody. I'm more than open and more than willing to give it.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Don't call me and ask me for money donations, though. Gas is expensive.
That's all we're going to call for now. Patrick, we want money.
Right.
All right. It was great meeting you, Patrick. I hope you
pleasure.
have an absolutely fantastic evening with your wife and daughter.
Thank you.
And of course, all the luck to you in your business, even though I don't need any type of luck.
Thank you, Carly. I really appreciate you guys doing this. I hope you guys continue to do it long term, and I'll definitely be watching along just to see how you guys progress with it. And thank you, Velco, for inviting me. Anything I can do for you guys, let me know. I'm always here.
Thank you so much. You have a great night.
My pleasure. Thank you. Bye. All right, bye.
All right, everybody, that is all for this week's episode of The Overcomers. Again, it is going to be every single Tuesday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, whatever CST stands for. I'm in Florida, so I don't know. Make sure to go ahead and shoot us a DM if you'd like to be a part of this show. We are scheduling it throughout May at this time. And yeah, that's all. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.